All right, welcome. We are Kodachi for three, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a review on the Flesh and Blood Classic Battles Rhinar versus Dorinthia. Now, you may not recognize the person sitting next to me, and honestly, if you don't know me terribly well, you may not recognize me either. I'm Adam Roach from the Kodachi for three. I'm one of the main hosts, and this is
special guest.
Oh yeah,
Adam's wife Amanda.
Absolutely. So just to explain why I had my wife on today, we're talking about and we're reviewing the product Rhinar versus Dorinthia, the classic battles. This is intended to be a product for brand new players. This is intended to be a product for people who might join the game. And so Shay, Drayton, and I, we all talked about it, and we're like, yeah, we could absolutely give our opinions. We could absolutely say what we thought about this product. However, we come from completely a different realm, right? Like, I'm going to want some cards out of this box. There are certain things that I'm going to think about this box, but that's all from an experienced player's perspective. And so I thought it would be good to get your perspective.
As the primary demographic, I have played 2 games of one of the other.
Yeah, so you've played Prism before, you've played Chain before, we've played a couple with the little starter decks there. So she is familiar with the mechanics of the game and how to play. And you are a gamer, right? Like, you play board games, you play video games and things like that with me quite frequently. And so that is definitely something that we have in common here. So that's a process.
But as far as this game goes, I still am definitely far from an experienced player.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get this cut open here. We're going to be getting going. Now, there may be another special guest in this video because my 3.5-year-old son does want to participate, and he is up from his nap. So if this video cuts out and then cuts back in on the YouTube, you're going to know why.
Okay, well, the box is very pretty. I don't understand how to open it. Okay, there, I got it. Okay.
You got it? Yeah, we're making progress. So I will also preface for you that this is a $50 product. It's going to cost about $50 to buy. And so keep that in your mind, like, is this worth $50? Is this not worth $50? Kind of as we're going through it and thinking about it.
This seems more like story than instructions.
I think that is mostly story, not instructions.
The background of the 2 characters.
Yep, so we can kind of take a look at that really quickly. This says The Tale of the Gifted Knight and has a picture of Dorinthia on it. This says The Laws of the Hunt and has a picture of Rhinar on it. So kind of as we covered earlier, you know, Rhinar is the brute here, and then Dorinthia is the warrior, and that's just going to be them in the decks. It is indeed just kind of a story about them. You know, we could talk about that if you wanted. You could read these if you wanted. We probably don't want to read those on stream. Just because I'm not sure quite how that would read. But there's a little bit of artwork in here. There's a little bit of story. I don't really know how that strikes you. I'm personally somebody who does not care a lot about the story of things, though this game does have a fair amount of lore that I do like. And I've been getting more into reading some of the stories.
Interesting. So here is a beginner kind of, you don't need to have a playmat. It explains to you where all the cards should go, which is helpful for a new player, I will say that. Most of the playmats just have the squares, but don't say what is supposed to go there.
Yeah, that's very true. Most playmats do have just the squares, and many people won't have the playmats, right? They're, especially if they're buying this particular product, they're probably have just picked it up and have literally no playmats at all, or maybe they're a Magic player or, you know, L5R player or something of that nature. And so they won't have that.
Yeah, so it also has a link to the instructions for the game and little explanations of what cards go where. So I think that is probably more useful than the storybook, but the storybook is also a nice add for a $50 set to include that.
Yeah, I
appreciate that.
I think I might have wished the instruction booklet was also inside. There was a lot of unused space in this box.
Yeah.
Now I get they wanted it to be bigger for you know, show purposes. Now, the box itself does have some information on it about Rhinar and Dorinthia. It shows that reprise warriors punish people when they attempt to defend an attack. That's a main mechanic. Then it lists Intimidate on Rhinar. Fear is more powerful than Tooth, Claw, or Club. Immobilize your enemies with your terrifying bellows. And then it kind of talks about where they're from, what their weapons and stuff are. So I do kind of think that's nice.
Kind of gives you the kind of feel of the characters and what their play style is going to be like.
Yeah. Unlike the last decks that you played with as well, these are full blitz decks. So that lists them as 40-card blitz decks. That is a legal blitz deck. You could go to your local like armory event or something and play immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Now I assume those are already in their 2-deck form. So
yeah, I'm a little bit confused because this one comes with the picture of Dorinthia on it, and then don't see a corresponding Rhinar.
That's interesting. There's a Rhinar there, so that's actually beautiful. It's cold foil, so.
Yeah. Okay. So then what's going on here? Is this just extra little picture?
It looks to be extra little picture based on that. Yep, yeah. It is indeed.
Just a little bonus.
Now, something that might not stand out to you, but does to me, is all of this equipment is foil,
mm-hmm.
And that I like. It's all very, very pretty foil. Now the heroes themselves are both full art, so this is not whited in like you can see the picture throughout the entire thing, and it's cold foiled, not just foil. And so, from my perspective as an experienced player in the game, this is something that I care about. This is a card that I want. And
it's like this weapon is regular cold foil.
The weapon is cold foil as well, yeah. And then each of their weapons are cold foil. Now these weapons are also new. I'm not telling people that they're better than the old weapons or anything of that nature, but they are new. And then it looks like at least this one has a mentor, which yours does as well. Mentors being a bit of a unique mechanic. So
here it comes with a helmet, a chest piece, arms, legs, the hero, and then the weapon. So that seems like a full set.
Yeah, it's definitely a full set. Same thing for Brute over here. You've got your head equipment, your chest equipment, your arm equipment, and your legs equipment. And again, you would not know this, but from a experienced player's perspective, the Blossom of Spring is unique to this. This is not a pre-existing card. The Bone Vizier helmet, this is also unique to this. Is not a pre-existing card. And then the Ironhide, these are both things that came out in Monarch. And so if we were to come over here and look at Warrior, the Iron Rots are both Monarch. No, actually, I apologize. The Iron Rot is actually Welcome to Wraith. So this is a very old piece of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
The Blossom of Spring, again, being unique here. And then this is a Monarch piece. The Gallantry Colt is a Monarch piece of equipment. So they have Ironhide and Iron Rot. The only difference being that the Ironhide defends for 2, but you have to pay for it, and the Iron Rot defends for just 1, but you don't have to ever pay for it. So that's different.
Okay. See that. Oh, 2.
Yeah, so again, they have a 0 defense value unless you pay for them, and that is a pay a resource here.
Okay. I see. Oh, and that is a different art as well.
Yeah, the new Dorinthia is actually, so again, a new player would not know this. The new Rhinar and the new Dorinthia, they both have new abilities. So when you discard a card with 6 or more during your action phase, this causes Intimidate. This actually is not a new ability, but the card art is new. So this Rhinar would be the exact same as the old Rhinar, except for the card art being new. This Dorinthia, I believe, may actually be different. The first time Dawnblade Resplendent gains Go Again, each turn you may attack an additional time with it this turn. So it's very similar, but it would only be able to use Dawnblade Resplendent, whereas the other Dorinthia says the first time a weapon you control hits each turn, you may attack an additional time with that weapon. So she's less of a wide-ranging thing, meaning it's less likely to be used outside of this set.
Mm-hmm.
You're less likely to take that card and then take it to a competitive play thing because it locks you into a specific weapon.
This weapon.
Now, we did not mention it, but at least the Rhinar has a cue card here for Intimidate. So Dorinthia, this is the Rhinar picture, the old Rhinar. Dorinthia didn't seem to have it on the back of hers. Hers just has the website. But this explains Intimidate, and so I don't know if you are familiar with Intimidate. You've never played a card with Intimidate before.
No. When playing Rhinar, your goal is to intimidate multiple times in a single turn. Intimidate means you banish face down a random card from their hand. At the beginning of the end phase, return the card to its owner's hand. So they just can't use it that turn, but it's not gone forever.
Correct, yeah. So they won't be able to block with it, but it's not gone forever. Now, I will say this. I don't particularly think, while this is useful, if you're a brand new player, you do still have to look up those rules. Mm-hmm. You are still going to have to know what banish means. Mentor cards, which again, you're not familiar with. Mentor cards are really not played outside of the starter decks. Mm-hmm. They're not really a thing that exists outside of starter decks. I've never seen one used in competitive play. That doesn't mean these won't be, but I haven't seen them used outside of starter decks before.
So you would shuffle this into your deck, and then you could draw it.
You would indeed shuffle that into your deck and draw it. Now it explains what it does on there. Mentors in the past have been something that you arsenal. You're going to be revealing, and then after a certain amount of time, it does something. But it's something that you have to have in the arsenal. This particular one, I assume, also has a mentor, so I could kind of read it and make sure it's the same.
Yeah. It's talking about your arsenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one says while it's face down in arsenal at the start of your turn, you can turn it face up. When it's face up in arsenal, whenever you play a card with 6 or more, intimidate, and put a lesson counter on him. When there's 2 or more lesson counters on him, banish him, search your deck for Alpha Rampage, put it face up in the arsenal, and shuffle. So it does a couple things. It doubles your normal ability because you're doing that off of Rhinar, so you would get it twice, which could be very, very powerful. In addition, it tutors up one of your best cards, right? Like this is your specialization. This is like the best thing you have.
So this helps you get your Glistening Steel Blade. Oh, which is this card. Oh, okay.
And that's new.
Which is is a good one.
Is Majestic, right? So that is a new card as well. And so personally, from an experienced player standpoint, I am torn on that card because right now there's only one of them, and it's only in this deck. So the only way to get that card, and it is a legal card in all Warrior decks, is to buy this deck and play that card, or buy that card from somebody else who has bought this deck, which means that some Warrior players, if they believe that that is a very competitive specialization, they're going to need to buy 3 of these. So they're going to need to spend $150 to get 3 cards. Now, that I think is an issue and something that would really need to be addressed.
Yeah, maybe they'll end up adding it to a future.
It is my strong hope that they would end up adding it to a future product, and that this would not be the only place you could buy it. However, since they have not already told us they're going to add it to a future product, it does still mean that this product continues to demand a high price point and that people are not cutting the prices and things like that on them because, again, we've decided that it's a specialization and that people want it. Mm-hmm. Right now, that card itself is selling for $25. So you're paying $50 for the box, and I can pay about $25 to get that card. Mm-hmm.
Can we go back to mentors? You said that you don't really use them in competitive play, so what's the benefit of having it in a beginner deck? Does it make it easier, or does it makes it easier to get the card that you're really wanting to use to see how this hero goes in action? Because I only have one of these. So normally if you're playing a real deck,
you'd have at least
2 to 3 of them to make sure that you see it.
Right. Yeah, so in Constructed, you'd have 3.
The mentor helps you get this card, so you really get a good idea of how this hero plays and performs. Is that the benefit?
I would say so. So if you were to just improve these decks, you could have 2 Gleaming Steel Blades or Glistening Steel Blades in your deck, 2 of your specializations, because it's a Blitz deck, so you can only have 2. The mentor would effectively give you 3 of them. They do also have a better effect too, right? So like while it is in effect, you get your hero's ability twice, or at least this particular hero, Rhinar, gets the hero ability twice. So it does double down on some of your effects, and that tends to be very, very good. And so I would say that that is a useful and beneficial card and effect. I would say for this deck, what it's really trying to do is making sure it really hammers home the flavor of the hero, either the intimidate mechanic or the reprise mechanic or something of that nature. It wants you to get a feel for what the core hero mechanic is, more than anything else. That's probably what I would say.
So this talks about lesson counters. Is that this little yellow symbol here?
So that yellow symbol is just power, so that's plus a strength. Lesson counters are something, again, completely and totally unique to a mentor card.
Mentors. Oh.
It could be any counter whatsoever. You just put a token on it, and that would be a lesson counter for that. Basically, it's a limiter on how long you can use it.
Oh.
So once you have a couple of lesson counters on there, it immediately goes away and does the rest of its effect. You can't just leave it there for the entire game, which is basically what it's saying there. So, we can kind of, I don't know what else you kind of want to look at or thumb through here. There are some other unique cards in here. So this one.
All right, let's try this thing again.
We have returned from our brief delivery and child interruption, and we are back to our, what is kind of an unboxing, kind of a review here. So
yes. So what I'm familiar with is they put all the cards that you'd be most interested on top. So your Glistening Steelblade is your Majestic. On Guard is new, although it's common. Gives you 3 power and go again.
Honestly, that while new, it is the exact same thing as Sharpened Steel, so basically it's a card that does the same thing as a pre-existing card, and that's similar to this. Beast Mode is a 3 cost that gives +2 if you've already intimidated this turn. That's not something that I believe is a direct replacement. And then we have cards that I have seen before.
Second Swing is something you're familiar with?
It's something I'm familiar with, yeah.
So Roar's Valor is rare.
And probably one of the most key cards. So this is the other card that I was talking about, Sharpened Steel here.
Okay, so really you just have the ability to have a lot of them because they're technically different.
They're technically different, right. I need to scoot those up just a bit, sorry. It's only because I cut it off on the playmat because I'm a slacker. Now this is also new to me. Run through. Target sword attack gains go again. Your next sword attack this turn gains +2. That's a new card as well.
So it seems like a lot of Dorinthia cards have to do with go again and adding power.
Right, and that is an attack reaction, and so it will be played in the reaction step as well. That's new to me.
Thrust, again adding power. That's what the yellow is, right?
Yes, yep. So that's 3 more strength. So again, if it comes, it would be called power, I suppose. In the swing, relatively new card, actually. I believe that's from Everfest.
Again, adding strength or power.
Yep.
Iron Song Response.
Old school classic for Dorinthia. Attack reaction. It's got the reprise keyword. So only if they've defended does that card do anything at all. It does not do anything if they have not already defended.
Okay.
Well, the card from their hand, to be fair.
Go again and adding power, driving blade, slice and dice. Okay. On a knife edge, go again.
On a knife edge is new to me as well. So there are quite a few cards that, at the very least, even if they have similar effects to old things, they are new cards technically.
Out for Blood, reprise again, and then adding power.
Now, from an experienced player's perspective, that card did come in only as a yellow. I've never played anything but the blues or the reds in my Dorinthia decks, and I am a Dorinthia player. That's like my heart and soul. That's the deck I play the most. Hit and run, I've ran blues, reds, and yellows, so that's very valid.
Is it the Blacksmith has go again?
Also a brand new card that I've never seen.
Blade Flash, go again.
Same thing, brand new card, never seen it. I do see a lot of these cards only block for 2. Interestingly enough, that is also a new card for me, and it blocks for 4. Cool art too, actually.
Yeah, it looks like he has some sort of tree bark armor.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. Interestingly enough, it also has the shield on this, and I've never seen that before. So that's maybe a visual cue that they're trying to give
defense reaction
as new players. Yeah.
Okay.
I also know, I mean, again, yeah, there is a note of what it is. Sigil of Solace at blue, just heal 1 as an instant, is a bit rough in my opinion. Doesn't block, heals 1. Again, I'm just trying to offer the experienced players' perspective here. I saw a lot of block 2 cards, not a lot of heavy defense out of that. So they do want that deck to be very aggressive, it seems. Could be wrong. Other ways to get go again.
Walkers, and then just some baubles.
Yeah, so those are basically just going to pitch for 3. They do block for 3, though, which is nice. But they pitch and block for 3. They do nothing else.
So it's a titanium bauble. So.
I've never, I mean, that's new. It looks like they've also cut all the flavor text out of the majority of this and kept the cards clean. So we can quickly go through this one as well. The Brute deck getting out here, the Alpha Rampage. Beast Mode being new to me. If you've intimidated this turn, gains +2. Which would also mean you need to get go again, in theory, in many ways. Because I don't know how you're intimidating before you're doing this, depending on what's in here. Pack Hunt, when you attack with it, it gains Intimidate, comes in at a 6. So if it gets pitched, it's clearly... I would assume most of these attacks are going to come in at 6 or above, just so they trigger your hero ability. Red Pack Hunts, they're very playable cards in decks. Bear Fangs, relatively playable in decks. Wild Ride, draw a card, discard it. If it's 6 or more, it gains go again. It's a very solid card. I've played it in ProQuest seasons and things like that. It's gone well. This is a card I haven't seen before, so we're continuing here. Now, Brute attacks tend to have no defense on them. I actually thought Wild Ride did have defense, so apparently I'm wrong, or this is actually a different version of Wild Ride, but it's the same art, so I'm guessing I'm just wrong and it doesn't have defense. As a new player, having so many cards without defense does worry me a little bit. It feels like that could be really punishing. Awakening Bellows, these are just buff cards, but they do intimidate, so that's going to be how you get that intimidate before the other. Pack Call, it's either new or something that I've never used before, which, I mean, that's iffy. We play a lot of Smash Instinct, and we play it at yellow, so this is the right card here. Smash with Big Tree.
Has no text.
No text at all. And it does absolutely have text in the normal printing. So...
Just trying to keep it simple and not distract.
Yeah, keeping it clean. It is only flavor text that it has on this card. The card doesn't do anything else. So, to be fair, it doesn't need that.
No text.
No text. This is definitely a new card. I would remember this card. I've never seen it before. 6 strength, 2 block, does nothing else. Raging Onslaught also has text. So Brute definitely got less new cards from the perspective of an experienced player. Like, Brute got less things that are new. Barraging Beatdown, all of these are good. I would always run these, and I would run red, yellow, and blue for the most part. It's only running yellows, it looks like. Rally the Rear Guard. I don't know that I've ever really ran the blues. These are attacks that have a bit of a defense reaction kind of thing. Mechanic to it, so it blocks for 2, but you can pitch to give it +3. Wrecker Romp, we play blues, we play 6, because it's a blue that's 6 strengths. It's very good from that perspective. It has the mechanic of discarding an additional card. And then Come to Fights, again, at blue is rough, but at least it blocks for 3, so this deck kind of needs some of that. Clearing Bellow, it's a new card, so there's at least something else, and it has Go Again to it. So literally, it just does Intimidate with Go Again. It's free though, and it pitches for 3 as a blue and blocks for 3. Dodge, also a new card, and it's a defense reaction and has that new defense reaction marker, which I like from the perspective of being a moniker here, and that has the titanium baubles. So as a rule. So as a new player, what are you seeing here? What are you liking? What are you not liking?
As a new player, I do not understand the intricacies between red, yellow, and blue. So the fact that it just gives me colors and just says "have at it" seems good.
In theory, I think it would want you to read the rules.
Right.
So when you say you don't understand the intricacies, I assume you mean you understand what it does.
Just not why you would choose one over the other.
Okay. Yeah. Understood. Understood. Seems reasonable. Just wanted to clarify on that for that perspective. What else? What other thoughts we got?
Yeah, I think the most intimidating thing about this game for a new player is the deck building component. And so it's nice to have a product that just gives you a set of a card that you can walk anywhere and just play.
Mm-hmm.
And
so then maybe I ask this question just as a prompt, right? So you've played with those other demo decks in the past.
Yes.
You would not have known that they were not legal decks to go to an armory with,
Correct.
I would guess. So is it beneficial to you? Do you think it's beneficial to most people who pick this up that it is legal immediately? And do you care about the fact that any of this stuff is shiny? Does that have a value to you? So, for example, those other decks were $12 to $15. So to buy two of them would be about $30. To buy this, it would be about $50. The differences being you get what is a piece of paper to lay your cards out on. You get the lore book, and you get full decks. So I would say these are approximately 7 cards bigger, and all of the equipment is foil. I will say that none of this equipment is played in a competitive setting, except for maybe the Gallantry Gold. I have used that in a Bolton deck before. So
I do think that having a deck that is a legal deck is very valuable. I would have assumed that the beginner deck that I had played before was legal if I had not been told otherwise, because I would think, why play a deck that is not a legal deck? And I also feel like, as far as getting the feel for the pacing, and the how often you're going to see a card, you really do want to have a deck that's the correct size to get you that experience before you move on to a deck that you've built yourself. And as far as the shiny, I mean, it is aesthetically pleasing to have everything shiny. As a new player, would I rather pay extra for it to be shiny? I don't know. Don't know.
Well, then maybe I should put it this way. There's been a lot of discussion on the prices of this. As somebody who buys cards, as somebody who buys board games, $50 doesn't really bother me. Now, that may be pretentious or whatever to say, like $50 is not that big of a deal. And if you do become a hardcore flesh and blood player, you could have gotten the majority of this for less than $50. However, right now, these cards are only achievable in this deck, and this card is worth $25 by itself. All of these cold foils, the rainbow foils are achievable other places, but not, of course, the things that are unique to it, and the cold foils of those things, they're not achievable anywhere else as well, so they do inherently have some value there. These are also unique mentors to this set, and so there is some inherent value to this. Now, as a competitive player, I do wish that they would reprint these so there's a different way to get them. However, that does increase value, but maybe the question is just, if you were to walk into a store and say, hey, I wanted to test out this game, is $50 too much?
That's a difficult question to answer because, again, $50 is different to everybody. But I feel like the value that you're getting here is in having a deck that's legal and having the mat included that shows you where to put everything. I think that is going to be really useful to newer players that are used to seeing these very beautiful play mats out at the game stores, where you're just expected to know what goes where. And I think the value is in having a deck that somebody somewhere has said, hey, this is a good way to learn this character. And then you can move forward. Once you have a little bit more understanding, you can make your tweaks that you want to make and personalize it or make it stronger however you feel like you can.
And we should also say that these decks were meant to be played against each other. So if you do not adjust them at all, I would assume that they have a relatively equivalent power level. Now, we haven't tested that yet. We do plan on doing that. Either you and I can do so, or if we're really trying to get like two competitive players' mindsets to really gauge how competitive are these together. Irrespective of player skill, then myself and Drayton or myself and Shay will play them into each other, giving people an idea of how to play the decks, right? Because they'll be able to see us play them and play them out. We'll do that very much like we'll talk through it. But I would guess that they're a relative power level. Looking through the cards, looking through the cost curves and things like that, my initial overall is that they look to be relatively well balanced against each other. If I were to give somebody a power level advantage, probably Dorinthia, but I gravitate towards Dorinthia, so I very easily see how those cards work together.
Right.
She is more straightforward than Rhinar is, and she always will be more straightforward than Rhinar is.
But I think at the $50 price point, I mean, you want it to be aesthetically pleasing, so I do, appreciate that they did make them the shiny, and then for the $50 price point, I appreciate that it is a better entry to the game in a legal deck, and that they give you all the resources that they feel like you're going to need to be successful in playing that deck and to get the real flavor for this hero.
Now, are you put off in any way, shape, or form by learn to play via go to a website versus just having like here's some dumbed down rules? Because I think personally I would rather see here is the really like high level rules, and then below it I would like to see click on this or go to this website to learn the complicated rules. Like your comprehensive rules is an 80-page document, right? Now I've learned them. I'm a tier 1 judge and things of that nature, so I care very much about that document. But a new player doesn't, and so I think having a shortened rule set would be nice. Maybe that doesn't bother you, but it's something worth mentioning.
I mean, having not looked at the website, maybe they do have, because this is just a website for learning, not a website, I would assume, for all of the rules.
Now I can get up and I can open that somewhere, and we can just know, but for some reason, I did not have my phone with me. So I will let you open that, on your phone, and you can give a quick look at it. Now that doesn't really have to be something that you show on the camera or anything of that nature. I like the fact that some of this stuff is new. I like the fact that it's shiny. I would say that while this is unlikely to come in and win a Blitz event, and I cannot gauge the power level quite enough here, I would guess that it won't do terribly because there are Majestics included, but it won't be quite as consistent because the Majestics included as a one-off. I would never play it without two.
So I can say that the link that they have provided has a 6-minute learn to play video, and then also has quick start rules that says 9 minutes to read and ways to play 3 minutes to read. So I don't have any issues. I feel like a lot of people will likely learn better with a video explanation instead of a book of rules. I think it can be a little bit daunting to try to get a new game, and then you get this big rule book that you have to digest.
Sure.
And so probably using the resources of being able to put it on video instead of printing it out will make it more, what word I'm looking for, a little bit more inviting, a little bit less intimidating for newer players.
Yeah, that's fair. And everybody is used to using electronics to get things nowadays, and so maybe I'm being a little unfair on that. So if I wanted to nail you down at the end of this and be like, what's your overall thoughts? Is this a good product? Is this not a good product? And again, you can maybe couch that against the other decks, but I think we've kind of covered that you think it's better than those other decks.
Yes. Yeah, I do. I think if I was wanting to have an entry to this game, this was the way that I would want to do it.
Okay.
I mean, you get to see a little bit of the shiny, and maybe you don't understand the difference between cold foil and regular foil and what value that adds, but it looks pretty.
It looks pretty, and sometimes, honestly, that's all that really
makes
matters.
You feel like you're getting something for your money.
Mm-hmm.
And I like I like that they're legal decks. I like that, you know, you can say, hey, play these 2 decks against each other. Here is a game that you have in this box, legal game, have at it. And then if you like it, you can go from there. But I think I'd rather have this sort of entry to the game where it gives you really everything that you need to decide if this is something that you are going to want to invest your time and resources into.
Yeah, and a lot of games do live and die on what I would call beer and pretzels players or home players. So people like you and I, people like you and I, so maybe the inappropriate way to say this, I've played thousands of games of this, and you don't want to play it with me anymore because of that.
You're so good.
That being said, but I'm a traveling competitive player. I'm not a professional player at the game, which some of us on the cast, you know, aspire to be. Drayton has won high level events. I'm top 8ing in the road to nationals areas, not winning them, and definitely not consistently. So, good player, yes, but I think for the average person that's getting into it, especially somebody who might have, you know, a roommate or a spouse or significant other that they would play games with, that this is a really good product for that. And games do live and die on that type of player, because while they never come out to events and things, they occasionally buy packs, they occasionally buy cards, they occasionally buy things like this. So from my perspective, this is a good product for those people. Is it a good product for somebody who believes that they're going to be competitive long term? From my perspective, it probably is not for that person. However, it also, in my opinion, also doesn't have poor value for that person, because they can still learn to play with this deck, and then they can always just sell that card for $20 and get most of it back out of it and have a couple of shinies. So I think that's fine. I really see no downsides here. Do I wish it was cheaper? Sure. Do I think it probably could be cheaper for what it is? Maybe. You know, $40 would definitely be more palatable for some, though most stores I see are actually selling it around the $40 mark. At least online you could find it that way. If your local gaming store is selling it for $50, I still think it's a worthwhile product, and I think you should support your local gaming store at that. So, I don't know. My opinion is that it's actually pretty solid. I was pleased opening it. I don't know how I feel about the blank cards and stuff like that, but it does cut the clutter. Would that have been more confusing to you? Because I feel like it wouldn't be, because you would have no idea it should have anything on it.
No. And honestly, as a new player, you feel like you have to read all the text, and that's really going to slow you down. Because every time you pull it up, you feel like you need to read it, and that's nothing I need to know. Okay, now what am I going to do with it? And so keeping it kind of simple and streamlined, I think probably will help a new player to focus on what is important about these cards, instead of getting distracted and slowed down with all that text.
Yeah, that's a great point. I like that. I'm happy to hear that. So
yeah. So I think looking at all these, it makes me excited to try them out.
Awesome. Well, we'll do that in another video. We'll probably do some play with us or some competitive play as well, and maybe both, honestly. So look for that in future videos. I will say that we opened this particular box during the stream here today. We do have another box here. This is completely sealed. It hasn't been done anything with, and we're going to be giving this box away, so to one of the viewers. Now I'll cover a little bit more in future posts and things of how to do it. But basically, all it's going to really require is that, 1, you have liked our Facebook page. 2, that you go to our Facebook page and you make a comment on this here. Well, it won't require you to do that, but it'll give you an additional entry if you do it. Okay. So tell me what you would do with the product if you were to win, and then you'll get an additional entry. If it's a great reason, or if it's like, I'm going to give it to somebody local, and I don't think you're just giving that because I put it on the video, then you'll get 3 entries instead of just an additional 1. So we'll try to make sure we're getting that out to people. I know it's a small giveaway, but it's something. $50 out isn't too bad. Worst case scenario, you get an extra card that you didn't have. So we're going to get that out for our viewers. And other than that, I want to thank you for participating, because you definitely didn't have to participate in what is our hobby of making this cast. And I'll participate everybody who watched. So.
Yeah. Thank you for watching Kodachi for 3.
Yes.
+1.
Kodachi for 3 +1. Well, Drayton hasn't been on for a little while, so it's really, you're just kind of filling in. But he's returned, so.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.